Welcome to Christy's Cookbook Chronicles. I'm Christy. For those of you joining us for the first time, I am cooking my way through my vast collection of cookbooks. I shared with all of our viewers before that I have collected so many cookbooks and have yet to cook my way through a single one. So that is my mission, is to cook through every single recipe in each cookbook. The cookbook we've started with this month is the African American Heritage Cookbook. And thus far we have made, I believe, 4 recipes and they have all been winners. So today we are cooking country fried chicken. And so it requires you to have a whole chicken cut up into parts, but you must marinate the chicken in buttermilk for 2 hours. So this is a valuable note. Before you start any recipe, you should always read through the recipe in its entirety so that you're not caught off guard. And for those who are new, you will always find the recipe and the ingredients list in the description below the video. So with that, let's get started on making our country fried chicken. And I taste my flour after I season it to see if it has enough salt or enough garlic or enough onion. I like to see how it tastes, and there's nothing wrong. You won't get sick from tasting flour. At least I don't think so. I never have, and I taste it all the time. I think it's perfectly seasoned. So we'll go on to the next step. So at the beginning of the video of us outlining our recipe, I told you that you'd need to heat vegetable shortening or whatever oil of choice you are going to use, canola oil, vegetable oil, what have you, and it needs to be an inch thick in your cast iron pan. I told you to heat it to 370, but I neglected to tell you a useful tool. You will need a candy thermometer or a frying thermometer. That can go, mine goes up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is really helpful. You'll put this in your oil before it starts so that it can come up to temperature with your oil, and you're looking for this to hit 370. So again, we have our thermometer, we have our oil in our pan. I'm going to put my pot on. It should be, I would say, like a medium high to low high heat. You know your oven or your stovetop better than I do, but you want that grease to get nice and hot. So my cooktop goes to 9. I'm gonna put this at, I think, 7. And we're gonna sit that in there. A lot of these thermometers will have a little backing clip so that you can attach it to the side of your pan or your pot, depending on what you're using. I'm just going to lay mine on in there, right here, like so. And we'll wait for that to get hot. So while our oil is heating up, the recipe calls for us to remove our chicken from the buttermilk and to place it into a separate shallow pan. It doesn't say shallow pan, I'm saying shallow pan. Whatever you have is fine, but you can take it out, and it calls for you to lightly season it with additional seasoned salt. Doesn't have a specific measurement. I say do it until the ancestors tell you to stop. Don't go too heavy because you already seasoned our flour. Don't forget that. So a light hand is best. So we're going to do just as the cookbook suggests. I'm going to take this out. I'm trying to let the excess buttermilk kind of drip off. And it's okay if there's still some buttermilk on there because we're going to double dip this chicken back in the buttermilk after we do the initial flouring. So now you should have dipped all of your chicken in your flour, laid it on your parchment paper to dry, and you're gonna let that dry for 15 minutes so that it can be as crispy as possible when you start to fry it. So your chicken should be like this on your pan, and now we're ready to put it into our hot oil. Okay, so now that our oil has come to temp, we are now going to start frying our chicken pieces. And be mindful of the size of your cooking vessel. You don't want to crowd the chicken in there because instead of frying it will steam. But this recipe calls for frying chicken a little bit differently than I've done in the past. It calls for you to slowly brown it until golden on each side, and then after it's golden, you cover the pot or the pan, your cast iron pan, and you let it simmer and cook like that for 35 to 40 minutes. So this is new. We will see how this turns out. I've never done it this way, but that is the purpose of cooking our way through our cookbooks, to learn new techniques, to get exposed to different ingredients and different ways of cooking. So we'll see how this turns out. So gently lay your chicken in your pan, skin side down, slowly so you don't burn yourself. And again, don't crowd the pan, brown it on all sides, and let's see what happens. So everybody, here's our first finished batch of the country fried chicken. I think it's a tad bit darker than I would like it to be because I think the oil was a little bit too high. Again, cooking with the lid on and that technique was a little bit new to me. It's just different. But overall, I think it's super tasty. I already ate a piece of this and it's very delicious. So the seasonings were perfect. The skin is nice and crispy, but just monitor your oil and take it from there. You have to feel things out when you're cooking, and I think that's the purpose of us doing this together, is cooking our way through our cookbooks so we figure things out together and expand our repertoire. But again, totally delicious. I would make this again. Fried chicken's not my favorite thing to make because I don't like the mess, even though it's delicious, but I would make this again. Okay, I hope you'll join me the next time. Ciao!